Thank you. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm delighted to answer the question that Professor Lazarus implicitly put before us. He told you to go to Wall Street and change Wall Street. Doesn't that sound like a good idea? You can go to Wall Street, get rich, change the world. What could be easier? So I want to talk about whether it is so easy, whether business can be a major lever for change, and if so, how? So this is a tough question. If we think about the relationship between making money for shareholders and creating social value, there's an influential school of thought that thinks that market capitalism is structural evil, that the focus on the bottom line, that the focus on money at all costs, on personal gain, a system built on nothing but personal self-interest, is one of the most important instruments that is destroying the planet. On the other hand, we have a group of people who think that there is no conflict between making money and saving the world. Indeed, they would argue that business has been one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful, instruments for social progress over the last 100 years. That it is capitalism that has created the buildings, the food, the cars, the gadgets, the lives that we lead right now, and has brought unprecedented prosperity and freedom across the world. And they would point to what happened in Russia and to what is happening in China right now to say, look what business can do. So this is our question. Can business make a difference in the great problem that we face? My own view is nuanced. I think business potentially has a significant role to play. It is clear that many of the things that business does, making sure that we have enough to eat at reasonable prices, cheap clothes, great houses, this is an enormous source of social value. I also believe it's the case that private industry is responsible for many things that destroy social value. The most obvious, perhaps, would be selling machine guns to children in the Congo, a very profitable business, but not one that creates much social value. Another example might be pumping out enormous quantities of carbon dioxide to preserve a few jobs and to give us cheap energy. Is this something that business does that is, in fact, morally reprehensible? Is this something that our children and our grandchildren will look at us and say, you did what to make money? This is a tough question. There's a stream of influential work that suggests that business can be part of the solution. Books with titles like Green to Gold, articles called Creating Shared Value, that business in its ability to innovate can produce solutions that will change the world in which we live. And you should know, I believe, that this is true. That in the long run, there is no better hope for human progress than business, because business is about innovation at scale. Business has learned how to motivate people in ways that we've never seen before. I think if we unleash the power of the private market to address problems in climate, we would reduce carbon emissions at rates faster than we can possibly believe. However, I do not think it will be easy. When I show this diagram to business people and ask them to read the articles like Green to Gold, they look at me thoughtfully in the way that only business people can. Because they know that some of the stuff they're doing that I would like them to stop is enormously profitable. And some of the stuff I would like them to start doing is not profitable at all. And they have shareholders and quarterly earnings targets and lives to lead, and they want to keep their jobs. So I think the most useful way to think about this is as the next great transition. That we need to grow to the position where business can make an enormous difference. Then I think this is happening. So the curve on the left here would be the old way of doing things. and we kind of flattened out. We need a new way of doing things. We need a decarbonized economy. And I think a decarbonized economy would be an enormous source of growth and jobs and new ways of doing things. And I think there are firms out there that are already starting to take advantage of these opportunities. If you look at Unilever and the announcement the commitment they have made to double the size of their business while reducing their carbon footprint. If you look at Walmart and the pressure they're putting on China to use sustainable practices. If you look at KKR, those well-known tree-hugging liberal people whose claim that energy efficiency is one of their major sources of returns, there are enormous opportunities out there, and business is moving in very exciting and productive ways. The issue, however, is this. Transitions are never easy. If you are inside a large, mature company and you announce that you've decided you want to go green and you see the new product lines and you want to invest in energy reduction, in energy management systems, in new ways of adding water and fertilizer such that we really change the productivity of agriculture, the following things will happen to you. First, people will say, that's very interesting, but can you be sure that's the future? You know, solar power, I don't know, maybe it's geothermal, maybe it's concentrated solar. You know, how can we tell what the future's going to look like? Easy in retrospect, hard in the moment. And the second thing that will happen is someone will say, you know, I don't think it's happening. And then someone else will say, it won't make any money. And someone else will say, and even if it is happening, and we can imagine it might make money, you know, we're kind of busy, and we can't do this new thing. I have spent 20 years studying this problem. I was the Eastman Kodak professor at MIT for 20 years, and that's what I did. I studied large companies who knew they ought to change and could not. This is a difficult and complex problem. It's not a matter of smoothly growing so that business easily moves in to meeting social value. It's a matter of painfully advancing a bloody frontier where there will be mistakes and failures of many different projects and people trying many different kinds of things. But here is the good news. In 20 years of studying companies trying to make this transition, I think I learned a fair amount. And there's a bunch of us who study this. So if you're intrigued, there are books, there are articles, there are case studies. But what is the one thing that makes the difference? What is the one thing that helps firms get through this kind of transition? It's wanting to get through it. It's being emotionally committed to changing the existing way of doing things. That factor is the single most important predictor of success. So what do we need? We want, and my colleague Rob Kaplan already told you this, we need commitment. We need vision. But we also need hard-headed realism. This is not a wake up on Monday morning and transform the economy. This is take this as the central problem of our time. How do we change the rules surrounding business so there is much less emphasis on immediate short-term profitability? How do we change the accounting metrics so that one of the ways we evaluate companies is by the carbon they emit? How do we change the governance structures so that the people who run companies can take these longer-term interests into account? We need to unite a passion for making a difference and heading off what is looming disaster with hard-headed realism about how to build this into profitable business models. So the thing we most need is creativity. There's an enormous amount of money to be made here. There is a great deal of fun to be had. Of 20 years of studying firms doing this, I can tell you there is nothing more fun than building an enterprise that opens a whole new market, getting really rich and making a difference. That is a high like almost no other high. And this transition we face as an economy, as a world, is ripe for the taking. It's going to hit every major industry: agriculture, energy, construction, consumer goods, textiles, services. It's coming down the pike. It can make us all rich. But it will require commitment, vision, hard-headed realism, and the creativity to unite those to make it happen. Thank you very much.